I have to say, the walk down to the museum is a very pleasant and tranquil one. Today, Vindolanda has become well known for the wooden tablets which were first discovered back in 1973 by archaeologist Robin Burley, some of which are now on display within the museum. Unfortunately, I was unable to obtain permission to film or photograph within the museum, but for those interested in the tablets, you could visit this website. We spent the day exploring Vindolanda, as well as talking with volunteers who were enjoying their time excavating the site. The day simply flew by, but now it was time to find somewhere to stay for the night. We headed back towards Vircovicium and continued eastwards along the B6318 to a B&B called the Old Repeater Station. I found the hospitality and friendliness in these parts second to none, and I really enjoyed my stay here. And as for breakfast, well, that was just cracking. From the Old Repeater Station, we again made our way along the wind sill to the fort at Vircovicium. Vircovicium, modern-day Housesteads, is located roughly midpoint along Hadrian's Wall. It stands on a natural undulating ridge of volcanic dolerite rock known as Wind Sill. Built around 124 AD, the fort probably garrisoned auxiliary soldiers belonging to the first cohort of Tungrians, battle-forged men from the Belgic regions of Gaul. Its position commanded total control of Nag Burn and the surrounding area. The restrictive terrain not only determined an east-west orientation of the fort, but also left it without a source of water beyond that which fell as rain, a fact which would later prove problematic. With a garrison of over 1,000 men, drinking water would probably have been brought, on a daily basis, to the fort in water wagons, similar to this one. Today, we think of this region of Britain as being harsh, cold, and very wet. However, 1800 years ago, the climate here was very different. In fact, it was comparable to that of Kent today, warm and dry. First excavated in 1898, the latrines, abutting the southeast curtain wall, are certainly a popular feature with visitors today. A truly fine example of Roman engineering, practical building skills and craftsmanship. But here at Vircovicium, they were just one step away from being an elaborate cesspit. So why don't we explore its design and construction, as well as look at some of the solutions which the Romans arrived at in their attempts to have a fully functional latrine. All permanent Roman forts, such as those along Hadrian's Wall, would have had a drainage and sewage system, much of which would have laid just beneath the surface. Examples of this can be seen at Vindolanda, as well as here at Vircovicium. The hill the fort was built upon had a natural slope towards the south and the southeast, making the point at which the latrines were built the lowest elevation within the fort's perimeter. So by channeling and directing the drainage system towards the latrines, the Romans anticipated using rainwater to flush away the human waste. Fresh water in, dirty water out. The latrine is rectangular in shape with a central pier jutting out from the east wall, the result of which forms a C-shaped culvert. Seen in cross-section and with the pier removed, we can see that the culvert slopes along its course, ranging in depth from between 1 metre to approximately 1.5 metres. Also note the recesses within the walls. These were the housings for wooden beams which supported a frame structure and which in turn supported the fascia panels and latrine seating. Stone slabs would then have been mortared into position between the fascia panels and the drainage channel to secure the structure in position. With the latrines completed and accessible to 1,000 auxiliary soldiers, all that was required now was a regular supply of rain. Of course, frequent downpours of rain simply didn't materialise, and we'll look at the evidence for that in a moment. But let's try to imagine what it must have been like with 1,000 men using these latrines at least once a day. The stench must have been overwhelming. Being posted to this corner tower may even have become a form of punishment. The situation must have been dire, because the Romans resorted to building these water cisterns. Well, that's not such a big deal, but it is when you have to decommission a watchtower to do so, and then build another in order to compensate. Even so, this still wasn't enough to resolve the problem, so they removed a section of the southeast defensive rampart and built another water cistern. Did that resolve the situation? Well, we'll never really know, but the evidence which remains today only goes towards enriching our understanding and overall intrigue. As a matter of interest, these cisterns were built from stone slabs and then lined with clay to help retain the water. But the Romans also poured molten lead into grooves which had been chiselled into the sides of the slabs. This not only helped make the systems more rigid, but could also have made them water retentive. Now, this technique, I did notice, was also being used on the drains at the Salernum bathhouse. What we have here is this system, drainage system. And you'll notice that there's a great big groove cut all around, and the other section would have been butted up to this, which would have left 2 holes at the top. And what you do, molten lead poured down there. When it sets, that forms an impermeable, yes, it forms a very good seal. Permeable. It forms an impermeable film. What was unusual about many of the forts along Hadrian's wall was just how many had a Valetudinarium, Vircovicium included. These infirmaries or hospitals were normally reserved for those forts garrisoned exclusively by Roman legionaries, certainly not for those forts garrisoned by auxiliary soldiers. In Roman society, doctors or physicians were more often to be seen selling their potions and remedies out in the streets and in the markets. They were viewed as liars, thieves, and peddlers of snake oil, quacks. But this wasn't the case for the physicians and surgeons within the legions. They were highly respected and experienced in the treatment of battle trauma and wounds. The grounds of the Valetudinarium would have been used to grow medicinal flowers, plants, herbs and roots. Opium would have been administered for pain relief. Water would have been boiled, surgical instruments sterilized. Wine, vinegar and sphagnum moss, all containing antiseptic qualities, would have been used to clean and dress wounds. For all the Romans didn't know about germs and the causes of sickness and illness, it would be nearly 1500 years before soldiers of any army would again receive medical treatment of this standard. I've got to admit, we'd had a good day at Vircovicium. So much to see and explore, but as is the nature of the walk, we needed to continue following the wall along Windsill, at least for a few more miles, until it's time to pitch camp. I know it looks bad. Here's Paul carrying everything, including his kitchen sink. All I can say is, thank God for that Sherpa team that's carrying all my camera equipment. Being a Yorkshire lad of Scottish ancestry, I know there's no better feeling than to have rough ground beneath your feet. Safe in the knowledge that beyond this valley, burn or glen lay the next, each unique, with their own character, their own stories to tell.